It's a favorable game for Penn State, but the season is back. Penn State versus Nevada, week one, it is here, and there's some key players that are going to step up in this game that you need to know about.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, it's great. College football is back. You are locked on to Penn State football, and thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Thank you to the everydayers for making us your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. Penn State versus Nevada. We're going to talk about the Big Ten, look across the Big Ten Conference. Hey, get your questions, comments in the live chat. I'll be responding to comments and questions in the second segment of the show. Starting with, just again, Penn State, Nevada. That's what everybody cares about here. And going through the game itself, what to expect. I mean, Penn State domination, but I am more focused on the new faces in this team. Chaz Coleman, Antoine Belgrave Shorter. It's going to be great to see Drew Aller, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen. But the three transfer wide receivers, Khalil Dinkins with Tyler Warren going away. New tight end room. Well, new tight end production, I should say. And then the true freshmen that have been greenlit, or they're on the cusp of a green light there. Kobe Howard, right? Yvonne Kemaju. See if they can join Chaz Coleman and Darius Dixon. So the players that mainly are going to stand out in this game are those newcomers, or the guys that are looking to make a name for themselves, that are rising up the depth chart, that are looking for more playing time here. And I got to go with defensive end first and foremost, because you have all of the buzz around Chaz Coleman. And Coleman still has a unique start to his career that is just beginning. This was a guy that was not a decorated recruit, flew under the radar. And Penn State was able to identify him as a superb talent. Deion Barnes getting that commitment. Ohio State tries to make a late push, come back. And the Nittany Lions are able to hold them off and secure this commitment. And Coleman doesn't enroll early. And part of the reason he wasn't this illustrious recruit was because he was playing quarterback a lot for his high school team. It wasn't really until his senior season that he took over as a superstar defensive end. So he really only had one season of production at this spot. And then doesn't go through winter workouts. Doesn't go through a spring football camp. Enrolls in the summer. And now this is a guy that, could he start? Chaz Coleman could very well start this upcoming season, depending on the availability of Azariah Fisher. But that's what Coleman has done over such a short period of time, to where he is now potentially, I mean, he's going to play at least 30 snaps, according to James Franklin. That's a lot of playing time for somebody that, again, wasn't this high-end recruit. He was a solid four-star, had all the athleticism in the world. But then, really needed to refine his technique, and now he's in that spot. So be on the lookout for Chaz Coleman. Be on the lookout for Antoine Belgrave Shorter, new starting safety for the Nittany Lions. Belgrave Shorter, second-year player, redshirt freshman, was definitely under the radar. Another player that didn't really have a lot of notoriety coming into this season. Okay, you have Dejon Lane. Hey, Dejon Lane's also a second-year safety. He's going to be one of the faces of the defense now, right? He generated buzz last year as a true freshman. King Mack returns out of the transfer portal. But it's ABS, it's Belgrave Shorter that ultimately takes the reins here and is going to be the starting safety alongside Zach Wheatley at that free safety spot. The reason Belgrave Shorter is the starter here is because he forces turnover production. Like Wheatley at free safety, this guy is going to force a lot of turnovers. And we might be surprised maybe at the end of the season if Belgrave Shorter does in fact lead the team in turnovers. I'm still going to take Zach Wheatley because I like what they're doing with Zach Wheatley schematically. They're going to bring him down into the box more. He's not really so much of a center fielder, last line of defense type of safety. He's going to be utilized in a way that's more aggressive in this Jim Knowles defense. But so is Belgrave Shorter. And with everybody keying in on Wheatley and just being aware of him, that's why it would not surprise me if Belgrave Shorter ends up being the guy that leads the team in interceptions, or maybe he forces the most fumbles. He did that in camp. He was the turnover king like Wheatley has been in the past. Belgrave Shorter is going to be a strong contributor, a strong playmaker, which is why they made him the starter. Or else it would have gone to Dejon Lane, King Mack. Mack has more veteran experience. He was off to a great start his freshman season, transferred out to Alabama. Grass isn't always greener on the other side. We recognize that. But now he's settling back into where he was flourishing early on in his college career. Those two guys are going to play. Dejon Lane and King Mack, they're going to play. They're going to rotate in. But I think it's telling that ABS is now the guy at strong safety. Keep an eye out for Darius Dixon since we're in the secondary. Green light, true freshman. This secondary is loaded. It's loaded, particularly at cornerback. With A.J. Harris, Elliott Washington, Idavian Collins, Zion Tracy. Kenny Wosley has been making a name for himself. And Darius Dixon has pushed his way into the rotation. Guy should be a senior in high school. Jim Knowles has said, this guy is the best freshman that I've ever seen, the best first-year player that I've ever seen in my college tenure. Oh my. Is that high praise for Darius Dixon? Modern day, state of California, all the way over in Pennsylvania, and he's going to play immediately because they have to. They can't keep him on the bench. He is that good. And then, of course, you flip it over to the offensive side of the football. Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson. Devontae Ross is dealing with some bumps and bruises. Upper body injury. Looks like an arm injury to me from what we've seen in practice. He looks to be ready to go, though. He is practicing. But I think Penn State's going to be cautious with how they limit him. Same thing with Zariah Fisher. Zariah Fisher was actually missing from practice on Wednesday. Might not play in this game. And that's why I highlight Chaz Coleman. Because Coleman looks like he's battling Jalen Harvey, Malachi Williams for reps at that rotational defensive end spot. But to focus on the transfer wide receivers. Trevor Pena and Kyron Hudson are going to get a good amount of run today, as they should. But those guys are going to split responsibilities. It's going to be a pretty equal distribution between Pena, between Hudson, and between Ross when he's fully healthy. And then you got to factor in 3 tight ends that are fairly capable. Oh, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen can catch the ball out of the backfield. Penn State's offense is set up to where you got to pick your poison. You can go in any different direction, and you have a legitimate weapon that Drew Aller can throw the football to. And Andy Kotelnicki can get creative in a lot of different ways. So Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson in particular. I think Devontae Ross is kind of a wait and see at this point because Liam Clifford's going to rotate in a lot today. And again, you don't need to prove anything if you're Devontae Ross against Nevada. But I do want to see some rapport, some timing, some chemistry built between Pena and Hudson with quarterback Drew Aller. I need to see that. I need some optimism because wide receiver room has been extremely lacking over the past couple of seasons, as we have seen. We can all agree on that. So more on this team. Your questions, your comments are highly encouraged in the live chat. We talk about Nevada, what to know about this game in particular. The spread is actually moving away from Penn State. Why is that? It's actually going towards in favor of Nevada. Well, we'll talk about it next here on this live pregame show here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. I know all of you couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage. The app that gives advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices. No surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Pull up Gametime and in just a couple of taps, you'll see those amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. Tickets to Penn State games are available on Gametime. And if you've never been to Beaver Stadium or you want reassurance, the seat views ahead of time through Gametime will give you that reassurance. You get to see your point of view before you even buy the tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, let's pick it back up. Again, your questions, your comments are highly encouraged down below. Let me know your thoughts, and we can talk about it. If there's a specific player, if there's something you want to know about in regards to this game or this upcoming season, just let me know. Penn State is a heavy favorite, if you didn't know already, but the spread, the total keep going down. This game actually started off 45 points. Maybe it was 46 in some places. Total was pushing 57, 58, give or take. And now it's gone backwards in favor of Nevada. The total is now set at 42.5 and 55 points. 42.5 spread, 55.5 on the total. Now I've said more my score prediction, and I'll stick with it. I still think Penn State dominates in this game, 63-7. Nevada is turning over its roster entirely. This is week 1. May I remind everybody. With that being said, the consistency, the continuity that Penn State has coming back, again, new look in the passing game, but it's improved assets in the passing game. But you have an offensive line. It's 100%, honestly, across the board, because you have Anthony Dongo and Nolan Rugiet. One's just moving over to right guard. So you could legitimately say here that 5 starters are back on Penn State's offensive line. You have that. You have a 4th-year quarterback, 4th-year veteran in college football, 3rd-year starter, 2nd year in Andy Kotelnicki's system. Doesn't have to learn a new playbook. Doesn't have to build a new relationship with a new OC. Drew Aller has one of the best setups going into this season. Between the wide receiver additions, tight end room, I get it. Tyler Warren is moving on. He was everything and then some for this Penn State offense a season ago. But there's not going to be a stark drop-off between Khalil Dinkins, Luke Reynolds, and Andrew Rapplier, respectively, 2 former 4-stars and a former 5-star tight end. Aller's got the ground game to lean on with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. But it starts up front with that offensive line. The difference in this game is the line of scrimmage. Why I'm so confident in Penn State over Nevada, as anybody should be, is not only what Nevada's dealing with. Again, what is that team going to look like? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? I don't even think they know at this point in time. But Penn State has the offensive line that is championship caliber. They're elite. I expect them to win the Joe Moore Award for best offensive line. That's where it starts, in the trenches. Now, here's something that I could see later on in the game. I think Penn State's going to build a hefty lead in the first half. I think that's fairly safe to say. Because of what you have returning, you're at home, all of those things matter. You're just the better team. You just have more talent. You just have more depth. You have better size. You have better speed. Everything across the board. Penn State checks every box. So I don't need to go into hard-hitting analysis to say that, oh, this is why Penn State's better. No, every single box. Size, speed, talent, depth, experience, consistency, continuity, coaching staff. That's why Penn State is a 40-plus point favorite. But the first half, that will show up because Penn State is returning the core, the nucleus of what made them such a competitive team a season ago. This is a run-first team, despite the addition of Trevor Pena. Devontae Ross, Kyron Hudson. This is going to be a ground and pound type of team. This is going to be a run-heavy team. Andy Kotelnicki is a run-first offensive coordinator, but he will do with whatever in the means to win ball games. If Drew needs to throw 60 times, Drew will throw the football 60 times. But they will default to running the football more often than not 60 times. Winning teams run the football more. So, Penn State will have those explosive plays. I mean, I expect Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen to at least each have 100 yards. I expect them to go together for 300. I think that's a possibility. Or maybe you have a scenario where they get 300 all-purpose yards or 300 receiving and rushing yards, because Singleton and Allen are going to be used as pass catchers in this offense. So a screen pass goes for 70 yards. So technically they don't get those rushing yards. Just know that they're going to be pretty active in today's game up until later on in the third quarter. And by that time, Penn State may have built that 40-point lead at that point. Now, Nevada is not going to take its starters out because they're trying to make a bowl game. They're trying to at least improve upon a 2-10 record from a season ago. Those starters, those first and second, the 1s and 2s for Nevada might be better than Penn State's 3s and 4s. Penn State's 3rd and 4th players on the depth chart. And if it's late in the game, I could see Nevada with an up-tempo offense, young guys adjusting to Jim Knowles' complicated system. Hey, maybe Nevada does score 14 points late in the fourth quarter. And if Penn State's leading 45-0 or something like that, maybe it gets to, they get to 52. Again, I think they're going to put up a lot of points there. But if that score is still within striking reach of the spread and Nevada's able to score 2 touchdowns, backdoor cover. So I can see it there. I'm expecting Penn State to put up at least 50. I will stand with 63-7. If you got a score prediction, you can let me know down in the comments section as well. To know some about Nevada, Chubba Purdy's the starting quarterback. Played at Nebraska once upon a time. Transfer quarterback. Nevada's a run-heavy team itself. This is a team that's not going to beat you through the air. This is an offensive line that can't hold up in protection for 5, 7, 10 seconds. So Purdy's not going to be able to go through his reads. Yes, this is the younger brother of Brock Purdy, if you did not know this. But Nevada is just miles behind. They have, for what it's worth, an okay team in the Mountain West Conference. I could see them being a 500 team at the end of the day. I'm just not entirely sure because of all the changes that they have made. If this team never truly gels, then that's going to be an issue for them. It does start and end with Chubba Purdy. I think Chubba Purdy's kind of the key to all of this. The defense struggles in the ground game. They struggle to stop the run, which is why I like Penn State so much in this matchup, because it's strength against a weakness. It's Penn State's best strength, easily, versus Nevada's worst weakness. That's only going to lead to more issues for the Wolfpack. But can Purdy, get 4 or 5 yards here and there consistently, sustain some drives, flip some field position, just make it a little more difficult for Penn State? That's kind of the key for Nevada. It's just to make things more difficult for the Nittany Lions as much as possible by extending those drives, being as physical, getting a little creative, but they're not going to do anything to trick them. Purdy is not the best passer. He is a runner. He is an athlete. If you're Penn State, if you're Jim Knowles, you stack the box. You keep a bunch of players down within the box, and you attack the line of scrimmage. You blitz. You can win your one-on-one matchups on the outside with A.J. Harris. So you can put 8 in the box. Have a QB spy with, say, Tony Rojas, Amari Campbell as that linebacker, as that athletic linebacker, or Don DeLuca. And that's what you do. You take away Purdy's legs. You force him to throw the football. A.J. Harris, Elliott Washington, Davian Collins can win their one-on-one matchups on the outside. Still looking for your questions, your comments in the chat. But we're going to pivot now to the Big Ten Conference. There's a 1 versus 3 because Penn State's the number 2 team in the country. Top 3 matchup today. Texas, Ohio State. National championship implications? Is this a preview of what's to come in the future? Well, we are going to discuss that next year on this live pregame show for Penn State versus Nevada here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Today's show is also brought to you by Upside. Hey, Nittany Lion fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Well, stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and you'll get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. And at first, you might think this is too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL. That is FOOTBALL. For a limited time, 25 cent per gallon bonus. Promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, home stretch here. Big Ten Roundup for this weekend. I do see we have a comment. Robert, thanks for checking into the show. Texas fans have no idea how hard it is to go into Columbus and win. I think Texas is going to figure that out, but I do think they come out on top. So throw your predictions in the comments as well, because I do like Texas, and I like Texas a lot. Not to win by 2, 3, 4 touchdowns, anything like that. Ohio State is still an elite team. But the Longhorns, you want to talk about consistency or continuity. Arch Manning, yeah, he's the new quarterback, but he played a little bit last year, right? Manning started to at least get his timeline, his clock, his developmental clock really started. We don't know a whole lot about Julian Sayin. I will say this, though. Julian Sayin's job is going to be fairly easy transitioning into Ohio State's starting quarterback when you have Jeremiah Smith, who's probably going to be a top 3 pick. We know that. Max Clare, tight end out of Purdue, is an NFL player. Brandon Inniss, Carnell Tate. I like guys like Mylan Graham a lot in Ohio State's wide receiver room. But it's a new quarterback. It's a new offensive line. 2 new running backs. A new offensive coordinator. New play caller in Brian Hartline. I know he's been there, but still new. And Texas is a national title contender. A strong amount of people. I mean, people are picking Penn State. The only team that is ahead of Penn State in terms of wagers to win a national title are the Longhorns. That's a tough ask for Ohio State. And I didn't even get to the defense. New defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia. 8 new starters on this defense. I like Texas a lot in this game to win. Not necessarily by multiple touchdowns and just absolutely run Ohio State out of its own building, but I do like them to win decisively. Here's the one thing I could see, though, because, Robert, you bring up a good point. It is difficult to play at the Horseshoe. It is difficult to play in Columbus. Ohio State does truly have home field advantage. Also, it is a noon kickoff. This is an 11 a.m. time for the Longhorns. I do think that impacts them in the first half. It would not surprise me if Ohio State is leading at the end of the first half, but doesn't hold on to that lead as Texas continues to settle it, while Ohio State continues to figure out its identity. Question marks. There are question marks about Ohio State's O-line. There are question marks about Ohio State's secondary outside of Caleb Downs and Igbenison. I mean, those are 2 players. Those are 2 very good players in future NFL. I mean, one player is definitely an NFL Pro Bowl or maybe even an All-Pro. The other, definitely an everyday starter at a minimum for Igbenison. With that being said, in the trenches, I'm not sure just where the Buckeyes are, but they are going to get better. They are going to get better over the course of the season. The version that you see of Ohio State right now, whether they win or lose, is going to get better. So if they lose, okay, well, you know that they're going to be a tougher test for Penn State. If they win, Okay, that's bad news for Penn State because that means they're way ahead of schedule, and then they're only going to get better and compound on all of that. So I like Texas in this one. Definitely watch that game. I'm going to be watching it before Penn State. We'll get to the stadium after the show. Sit down, get comfortable, put on Texas and Ohio State, and start to get a scouting report on the Buckeyes because that is the game, right? Penn State has struggled with Ohio State for a decade. Since 2016, the Nittany Lions have not beaten Ohio State. That's the game to circle on the schedule. I know there's Oregon, don't get me wrong. But let's be honest, everybody, most Penn State fans would side with the fact that it is time to beat Ohio State, and this is the season to do it. Penn State's best situation to do it. The likelihood has increased that they can do it because of what Ohio State has and what Penn State has as well. Penn State's in a better spot. Ohio State takes a mild step back, just a little bit. Is it enough to beat the Buckeyes? Let's continue to look across the Big Ten. Again, some results are already in the books. And a little bit, there's going to be a lot of rapid fire here because I got to get through all of them, right? There's 18 teams in the Big Ten and could be expanding even further. So last night, if you missed it, Michigan State beat Western Michigan 23-6. Illinois beat Western Illinois 52-3. Western Illinois is an FCS team, but Illinois making a statement early on that I think this team is a college football playoff team, kind of similar to last year's Indiana. Now, Indiana did sneak up on everybody, but just that Big Ten team that maybe not everyone's necessarily bought into, that I do view them as a top 10 team. On Thursday, Rutgers got a scare. Don't we all love MACtion? Rutgers was acting like a MAC team. They nearly lost to Ohio at home. They needed a field goal in the fourth quarter to win, 34-31 out of Piscataway. Minnesota struggled with Buffalo. So speaking of more Big Ten teams acting like MAC teams, 23-10 against the Bulls. Nebraska picks up a win against Cincinnati in a neutral site game in Kansas City. So be it. That's for NIL purposes. You're going to see a lot of these NFL stadiums hosting college football games to maximize NIL and generate revenue. That's why that game. So Cincinnati had no problem sacrificing a home game and it becoming a neutral site game because they got a hefty NIL payment from it or something to at least help revenue in athletics. But Nebraska wins 20-17. Wisconsin looked abysmal in the first half. I don't know if much changed. I mean, they did build a lead and they won 17-0 over Miami of Ohio. Luke Fickell, his seat's getting a little warmer by the second. So that Wisconsin team is not that good going into the season. And then we got a ton of games on the slate. Obviously, Penn State at 3:30, Ohio State at noon here, Eastern time. Keep an eye on Maryland and Florida Atlantic. You want to talk about a team getting a scare? I think Maryland with Mike Locksley. You want to talk about hot seats? Mike Locksley, coach that has one of them, starting a true freshman quarterback in Malik Washington. I'd like to see how that one plays out. Florida Atlantic is a 2-touchdown underdog. I think they make it close. They might even win that one outright. That's an upset watch. Purdue against Ball State. Purdue, new era under Barry Odom. That one's at noon. Other games at noon. Tulane versus Northwestern. That one's at Tulane. It would not shock me. Now, Northwestern looks like it's going to be close, but I do like Tulane in that one. Indiana, favorable matchup against Old Dominion. Oregon, very favorable matchup against Montana State. Iowa, same thing against Albany. Michigan against New Mexico, 34-point favorite. USC against Missouri State. Not a lot of fun matchups here in that late afternoon, early evening slate. But then we get to our classic Big Ten spotlight. The kickoff that everybody's ready for as a Big Ten fan. 11 p.m. Eastern time, UCLA versus Utah. Nico Iamaleava up against a new-look Utah team that has 2 new coordinators, if I'm not mistaken. Kyle Whittingham is still one of the best coaches in all of football. I do agree with that. Some people like Utah. I'm still going to side with, or some people still like UCLA in this one. I'm going to side with Kyle Whittingham in Utah just because I will side with coaching early on in the season. Washington also at 11 p.m. hosting Colorado State as a 3-touchdown favorite. Another comment from Robert. Maybe a Maryland loss helps us get 5 stars Zion Ely. Maybe. I don't think much is going to change outside of unless there is a coaching change. But that something like that, a Maryland loss to Florida Atlantic, would certainly not help Mike Loxley's cause here. College football's back. Full Big Ten slate. We're going to have takeaways today, so there's going to be more content on the way. Press conferences, player interviews, instant reactions, full shows ahead to talk about Penn State versus Nevada and so much more across the Big Ten as well and how it impacts the Nittany Lions. Thank you so much for spending the first part of your Saturday with me. If you're out tailgating, be safe, be well, enjoy the game if you are going to be in attendance or if you're watching from home or wherever. Thank you so much for joining me on this live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you and your support. If you're not an everydayer, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We do this daily. We talk about Penn State daily here on Locked On Nittany Lions, and we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day.